trash, and have I got a present for you. Another long-coming review, this one of what might be Exhibit A of They Will Make a Cartoon Out of Goddamn Anything. I have never denied that I am a child of the 80s, and while I refuse to go with the more cynical view of my younger colleagues who say this was one of the worst periods for animation, I have always said the 1980s was a transitional period. The industry was working to get out of the disaster that was the 70s, which firmly established the animation age ghetto, and creators were hoping that deregulation would end the rules and censorship that moral groups had established and would allow them to create interesting stories and characters. And while we finally did see more of that by the late 80s, the early years of the decade were when cartoon distributors began enforcing their wishes. Turn cartoons into half-hour merchandise shills. It's pretty much known by everyone now just how many cartoon shows were created first and foremost to sell toys, creating the product first and then telling a bunch of helpless animators, do something with this. Hell, I covered 4 of those in my 250th episode alone. By all accounts, the trend seemed to start around 1982-83, as that's when the likes of He-Man, G.I. Joe, and the aforementioned My Little Pony started being developed, even though it would be another year or so before some of them even got an animated special, let alone any type of series. However, some people weren't quite that patient and started demanding that cartoons be made from toys that were already in existence, like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Barrel of Monkeys. Nope! Let's make a cartoon on the Rubik's Cube!
Hello, my name is Rubik.
The legends are true, people. This is something that really happened. While the Rubik's Cube puzzle game was created back in 1974 by Hungarian architect Erno Rubik, it was after he sold the idea to Ideal Toy Company in 1980 that the multicolored cube puzzle really took off and became synonymous with 80s pop culture. It hit the biggest zeitgeist around 1981, but 2 years later, sales had dropped significantly and it looked like the fad was dead. Which is probably why someone thought the best way to revive the popularity was to give it a cartoon show. The series was created by our old buddies at Ruby Spears and their endless quest to not be outdone by their old bosses at Hanna-Barbera to put anything and everything to ink and paint. And it aired on ABC Saturday mornings in the same hour as another show we've already reviewed here. That's encouraging. I'll explain later why finally making this review was as challenging as trying to solve the puzzle itself, but for now, let's try to see just what Rubik the Amazing Cube was all about.
On a mysterious night, Rubik Cube appeared, bringing happiness. Rubik Cube has changed everything in our lives. He's colorful, magical, lovable. Rubik, he's our friend. Rubik, the Amazing Cube.
I'd play that thing over again until we understood what was said, but I don't want this review to have to last into the new year. So here's what I can gather just from the intro sequence. This Hispanic family found a cube that had been stolen, I guess, from this guy who rides a horse-drawn wagon, because everyone still rode those things in the 80s. And when the kids successfully solve the puzzle, the cube gains legs and a face that will make you no longer believe in a loving God. I mean, just look at this thing. It's like it's actively trying to steal your soul. To say nothing of what its voice might do to you.
Candy is good. Rubik, help! But how? You could make me Power Girl. Oh, no. Rubik can't.
Evil! Evil! By the way, that voice voices provided by Ron Palillo, as in Horshack from Welcome Back Kotter, who had his recorded voice chipmunked by technicians to make it higher and faster sounding. Congrats on creating something that makes even those chipmunks sound less freaky. So, where did this abomination come from? And why was it riding around in a coach that looks like it belongs in a King's Quest game? Take your guess as to what the answer is. Is it told in an animated pilot special that aired in prime time? Shown in a theatrically released movie? Or never goddamn explained? Instead, the first episode is A Halloween Story that aired in September. And it involves Rubik and the kids getting stuck in this haunted mansion where a mad scientist is hiding out building a cloning machine for counterfeiting.
Kids, I saw them, Dr. Angus. 3 of them. They were snooping around.
My work is too important to let some meddling kids interfere.
And you didn't have him dressing up as a lake monster to scare all the townspeople away? Geez, by the 80s, Ruby and Spears weren't even trying in their Scooby ripoffs anymore.
What could have gone wrong? The diamonds are unaffected, but I have hundreds of cubes.
And yes, I'm very certain this is the first episode, because the title is exactly the same as that of the full series. And pretty much all we get on Rubik himself from this episode is the ever-important plot device that he goes into a coma if his colors get scrambled. I'll get more on that supposed incentive to get kids to solve their own Rubik's puzzle later on. And yes, they have to repeat that detail in pretty much every episode.
Oh no, Rubik! He's misaligned! Oh no! Rubik!
So you basically took the concept of Fang Face and changed it from a guy who turns into a wolf when he sees a picture of the moon to an alien genie that looks like a kid's toy. Kids, be incredibly thankful you get to grow up with Friendship is Magic. Okay, there was at least one episode where we do find out more about the person who originally had Rubik, but if the Wikipedia episode list was accurate, it wasn't until the 5th episode. In it, the youngest son runs away from home because of course we had to have one of those episodes, and he and Rubik run into this guy. He's apparently some evil magician in a circus act that I guess was using Rubik in his shows. Your guess is as good as mine as to why he was only in a circus when with Rubik's powers, he could have been David Copperfield before David Copperfield even existed.
It can't be. It's the cube. After all these years, I found it again.
Wait, years? So the kids have had Rubik for years? Okay, to be fair, it is hinted later in the episode that the magician isn't the same guy from the buggy who lost the cube to the kids, and the magician actually held Rubik long before either of them. And that he may have been more than just a circus performer when he had Rubik. So naturally, they never follow up on any of those hints. So, just to recap, this whole show is about a magical wish-granting creature that was made to be the slave of an evil tyrant and was eventually taken in by a bunch of kids who became its friends. Gee, you just hope someone could have taken this concept years later and made a much better story out of it. And basically, just about every episode, at least the ones I could get, more on that later, is about the kids, of course, having to hide Rubik from their parents because you just can't trust even your parents with your fantasy friend in cartoon land, while having to thwart D-grade level criminal masterminds with Rubik's help. Usually by making the kids able to fly and humiliating the crooks like Marvin, Harry, and Home Alone. Because why wouldn't they just have Rubik wish the bad guys out of existence?
Rule number 1, I can't kill anybody.
Yeah.
so don't ask.
Oh yeah, right. This was even true in the Christmas episode that involved them, of course, having to stop a couple of petty crooks who stole a truck full of presents that were to be given to poor children. See, I provided something Christmas related in this review. Take your flaming comments elsewhere. By the way, this Christmas episode apparently aired in November. I would normally suggest not to trust that episode list on Wikipedia, but given this show's infamy, yeah, I'm willing to bet this terrible chronology was actually done. The thing is, the episode stories in of themselves aren't outright terrible. They're just standard fantasy adventure stories for the time that would have worked with the right engine to guide them. The problem here is the central figure of the whole story engine is a talking, multicolored puzzle toy with a nightmare-inducing face and voice and phenomenal cosmic powers that are never explained. For crying out loud, Glomer from the Punky Brewster cartoon had more of a backstory. And of course, all of these episodes ultimately make you wonder one relatively important question. What the frack does any of this have to do with the Rubik's Cube? I mean, you would think the whole reason Erno Rubik and or Ideal Toys gave Ruby Spears the license to make this cartoon would be to boost sales of the puzzle. What made them think turning their toy into something that violates the laws of physics and basic human decency would be a selling point? You have to wonder how many 5-year-olds had a tantrum and threw their block against a wall when it didn't turn into a magical creepy gremlin upon them finally solving the puzzle. I wish I could tell you more about this thing, but that's the problem. There were supposedly more episodes involving the magician and his attempts to get back Rubik, but they must have been in the majority of those that I wasn't able to find. Yeah, if you're wondering why it took me this long to finally review something this infamous, it's because it's right up there among those shows that have been so forgettable that episodes are near impossible to find. As of now, in TV Trash's 9th year of existence, I was still only able to get 5 of the 13 episodes made. A number of them were released on VHS many years ago, but I'm guessing most copies were buried alongside all those Atari ET video games. And maybe someone should go perform an exorcism on that landfill just to make sure something like Rubik the Amazing Cube never happens again! It's pretty sad that one of the first animated series to feature a predominantly Latino cast had to be this. The characters are extremely dull and bland, to being those where you don't even bother remembering their names most of the time. And oh yeah, the whole thing is about a talking puzzle cube. It really says something when the likes of Transformers, Care Bears, and My Little Pony had more thought put into them to create the scenario for a TV series that would actually get kids to want the merchandise they were shilling. I know there are people out there who are tired of internet reviewers saying they must have been on drugs when they made this. But sometimes there's a reason we go back to that well. Who in complete control of their mental faculties would have thought something like this was a good idea? Even the laziest hack writer imaginable would take a step back and question this.
Okay, we got to come up with some new cartoon ideas.
Oh, I got it! We do one on the Rubik's Cube!
That is the dumbest idea you've ever had, and you thought turning the Three Stooges into superheroes was a good idea!